Okay, Muldoon, what is the best thing for you about mountain biking?
Oh, come on, JD. That's an easy question. Speed.
Okay, I was really hoping you were going to say that, Muldoon, because I have two bikes here that you are absolutely going to love.
Oh, that's to be debated.
We'll see, we'll see. They are fast downhill, they're fast uphill, and they're fast everywhere in between. And you know what the best thing is? There's not a motor in sight.
Oh, no.
I know you're a big motor fan,
Oh,
but
man.
you're not going to find them
it's
here.
It's not that. I've been riding e-bikes exclusively for 3 months. This is going to kill me. So what are we looking at here, Jamie?
Okay, so I am on the Canyon Lux Trail and you're on the YT Izzo. They're pretty similar though in what they're designed to do. They're here to cover ground as fast as they can, so you can spend all day in the saddle without getting beaten up.
So are they cross country? Are they down country?
No, it's a tricky one. They're like, think of it as a bike that you can ride fast all day. They're not down country, I don't think, because they're not super duper lightweight with really gnarly geometry.
Okay.
But they're not cross country because they're not primed for climbing.
Pedaling.
For pedaling.
Okay.
Yeah. So they're somewhere in between.
Okay, so hit me with the vital stats on them.
Okay, let's start with this one. The Lux Trail, 150 mil rear travel, 120 mil travel on the fork. That's a Fox 34 step car, so like the cool cutaway fork to save a bit of weight. Grip damper in there, full carbon frame, flex stay suspension, and some pretty cool mod cons like internal storage, swat door, not swat door.
Cool. This bike, I remember when it came out, like that bike came out in 2024. This bike's like 2020, so it's almost 5 years old, right?
5 years old, yeah. YT is more of a gravity brand, so let's start with the travel. Like this is their shortest travel bike, but it still has more travel. They say 130 in the back, same fork, but not the step cast. So same
34 as that
34,
one. Okay.
130 mil fork. It's designed to do the same thing. It's got a carbon front triangle, but back end aluminium on this model anyway, the Core 2.
Yeah, and both these bikes are mechanical drivetrains, full 29-inch wheels.
That's it, yeah.
So Jamie, you've been testing these bikes for almost 6 months. I've had like one ride on each of them. Shall we go and get some more laps in?
Yeah, let's go.
Cool.
Freezing cold.
JD, if you went any slower, it landed on you. So Jamie, we've already had a brief overview about what these bikes are about, but I want to get into the details. I want to know the sizing, I want to know the geometry, and I want to know the weights.
Okay, I'm going to jump straight in with sizing. They both come in 5 sizes. I've gone with the XL in the Izzo and the size large in the Lux Trail. The reason I've done that is that's the sizing each brand recommends. So for a 185 centimeter guy, YT recommends the XL, and same height, I recommended the size large for Canyon.
Well, that makes a lot of sense because I'm like 181, 182 or something like that, and I find riding the XL Izzo, it's a big bike. So what's actually the reach number on this bike?
That's 490 reach, which is
so
pretty generous, especially with the 45 mil stem on it.
And how does that compare to the reach on the Canyon?
Yeah, I'm a bit cramped if I'm honest on this. The reach is 470, so in the ideal world, actually I would have gone for the XL in this bike too.
What are we looking at in terms of head angles on these bikes?
Head angle, pretty similar. This is 67, that's about 66.
Now
so like
I
trail
know why
bike.
you said they weren't down country. That's pretty steep.
Yeah, they're not down country bikes. They are bikes to do climbing, traversing, and a bit of descending. They're bikes to ride all day. They're not down country shredders. So you just
when I
hammer
said
up and down.
fast, I think maybe I should have qualified. I like them to go fast.
What do you mean fast?
Downhill.
Yeah. They do that. They do that. Moving on, they are remarkably similar actually in terms of the rest of the geometry. So the BB height's pretty much the same, 334, 335 I think maybe.
So high enough for some pedal clearance for technical climbing, but not like so low so you just like kind of heels are dragging in the corners on the descents. You
can change the head angle and the BB height, well BB height mostly on that because it has a flip chip.
Yeah, it's got the little flip chip right here on the upper shock mount. So hold on, it says high low, right? But what you really mean is it's got
high.
Right, yeah.
Exactly.
And zero geo adjustment on the Canyon?
Yeah, nothing in here. This is what you get. The wheelbase is actually identical on both bikes, which is amazing.
And
so
is the split the same?
Yes.
So we're talking same chainstay, same front center?
Yeah, which is amazing because they have wildly different reach, but the wheelbase is so similar. They are comparable when you're climbing and descending in how the geometry
comparable
is.
weight distribution even though they've got different sizing.
Exactly, yeah.
The key thing though for me is that looking at these bikes, That's full carbon. It looks a bit sleeker. Is that bike lighter than this one?
Yeah, you'd think so, wouldn't you? Again, remarkably, they are identical. They're like 14.3 kilos, both bikes. So despite 5 years of you know, mountain bike tech changing, full carbon frame, the flex stay, they are the same weight.
So Jamie, how much does the SWAT weigh?
What's in the SWAT is 0.5 kilo. So you get a tube, 2 CO2 canisters, the little pouch, and some, you know, there's rubbery things that you bung in a puncture.
Okay, so that bike, if we strip the tube, the CO2 cans, the tool off it, and run it kind of like how this bike comes, it's 0.5 kilo lighter.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
That's not it though, because they're going to have had to have built in extra weight to allow for strengthening that door opening, right? It's like, it comes in a crucial point.
Yeah, but it's such a tiny door, right? And it warps. It's not very well done, is it?
Yeah, let's be honest, it's pretty bad. It bulges out, it lets the water in. Yeah. It's a bit too small to get anything in and out of, so overall, I'd probably could lose it pretty easy.
So Jamie, I've tested enough bikes to know that just because they sound pretty similar on paper, doesn't mean they're going to behave the same on the trail.
Yeah, they are vastly different when you're riding downhill. Let's go and check that out.
Yeah, totally. Jamie, I thought you said these bikes were fast.
This is fast. You just need to lose some weight, you fatty.
Oh my God.
They're rough.
JD. You said this wasn't going to kill me.
I didn't say it wouldn't be hard work.
Oh my God.
But I said it was going to be fast.
They are fast though. So I can't think of a better time to talk about. Let's talk about the climbing. Okay. Just go up a climb.
Okay, so this bike has an 8 up its sleeve. You can lock out the rear shock and the fork just from the bar.
Simultaneously?
Simultaneously, yeah.
Okay.
So it has a 3-position lockout, fully open, pedal, which is like a half press, and then fully pressed to lock it out.
How easy is all that stuff to use? Because it looks like a bit of a mess.
Yeah, it's definitely a mess. You can take it off, but I would have it because it is actually really effective and you do learn how to use it.
I suppose that's the key thing, right? If that's the bike that you ride exclusively, like when I get on that, I'm all fingers and thumbs, but if that was the bike I rode all the time, you'd learn it, right?
You get used to it and it works really well. It's really easy to use.
So the cockpit on the Izzo, super clean.
Pretty clean.
No gubbins.
No, you do have a lockout, but it's,
this one
way down below.
Yeah, this one down here, it's quite, like, I mean, I can reach that pretty easy because my seat's slammed.
Yeah.
But at full height, that's quite a stretch, right?
To be honest, I didn't use it that much on that bike.
That's for that reason, right? Because it's not convenient.
Yeah. I tell you one thing though, you don't forget very often to open it back up again on these bikes because you've got so little travel to play with. You drop into something with it locked out and you know about it.
Okay.
And again, beauty of this one, you can straight away flick it into open mode.
Yeah, you could even do that.
You're not going to be.
Like we dropped in on the jump section of the dead unit locked out, and you can kind of you could just hit it and open it up mid ride. Whereas this, there's no way I'm going to be going as I go down the trail.
But climbing, like
so which bike climbs the best?
They're both really good climbers.
Oh, sit on the fence, JD. Jesus.
For this reason, this is a better climber, I'd say.
Okay.
But they both feel really light. They both got the geometry for it, which means a bit higher BB than you'd expect on your.
For pedal clearance.
From your gnarly like enduro bikes and stuff. They got long chainstays, like full 40mm chainstays, which is really good because it it holds that front wheel down, pushes you over the front of the bike, lets you put the power down too. Yeah, great climbers for obvious reasons.
And what about in terms of traction on the climbs?
I'd say this is a better technical climber.
Okay.
There's a lot of stuttery kind of like, there's really picky, techie trails. Yeah. And you can almost bounce this up things that you can't get up on that.
I think the other thing is that when you've got effective suspension, it's effective up and down.
Totally.
And to be fair, JD, I think we've talked enough about the climbing because I don't really care how they climb. Okay. Like, I'm way more interested in how they descend. So should we just go and hit some descents?
Yeah, let's do it. Come on, let's go.
Oh, that's more like a JD.
Yeah, that's pretty good, isn't it?
That's the fun stuff. So which one of these bikes can you ride the hardest?
It's not what you think. It's not the one with more travel. I think it's the Canyon, Lux Trail. And it's because it has more effective suspension.
simple as that. It's smoother, it's plusher, and it has more support.
Okay, so all round better suspension response than the Izzo. I rode this bike at launch. I've ridden a few different versions of it. I've always found a little bit imbalanced in the suspension.
Yeah, I found the
where
same.
the kind of rear feels firmer than the fork and kind of pushes you onto the fork for that more kind of XC feel. Are you saying the Canyon's has more balanced?
It's exactly what I'm saying, yeah, like Dot with the Float 34. It's a great fork and it actually has a lot of supple damping to it. And that's better matched on this bike than it is on that bike, which it feels like they've designed it as a pedaling machine, which I don't know.
In terms of the rear suspension.
In terms of rear. I'm not saying that's necessarily bad, that's good for some people, but it's not exactly what I want. I want maximum grip and I want to be able to hammer rougher trails as hard as I can, which is on this one.
I mean, that's what I want to do, right?
Yeah, I think so. Like off the top, it's so smooth, it sort of dips into its travel. The first bit of travel
on the Canyon.
In the Canyon is really easy to get into, whereas that, it holds you higher for longer. But then when you hit something like this with some jumps, there's a lot of support here so that you can boost it, you can pop it.
I mean, that's the best of both worlds, right?
It is. It's really well done. And it's really surprising because I've ridden quite a lot of Canyons actually now. And when I rode the Neuron on Fly, I was amazed at how it didn't feel that plush. And then you get something like this with less travel, and it actually, to me, feels better.
Yeah, I mean, the suspension is really what, like, that's why I kind of hinted it earlier that just because the bikes look the same on paper, when you actually ride them, it's how they behave dynamically, and that's all suspension.
Absolutely,
yeah. So you're saying the Canyon's got better suspension, it's more modern. So Jamie, how much do these bikes actually cost?
It gets worse for the Izzo actually, because that bike was £3,299 and this one is £3,099. And the reason I say was and is because actually they've just upgraded that bike. So you can now get the newest 2025 model.
But that's just a spec change, right?
Yeah,
the frame's the same.
Frame's the same, the travel's the same. They changed the fork, added a bit more on the fork. They made it a bit heavier, a bit more aggro, bigger tyres.
So you're saying YT's made the Izzo into a Jeffsy?
Yeah, they've closed the gap for sure. Okay. And I'm kind of a bit lost as to
why you wouldn't just buy a Jeffsy?
Yeah, exactly. So they're taking it further away from this bike. So this bike's cheaper, it descends better, I think it climbs better, and it has more modern stuff, admittedly. Some of it ain't so good.
Like it lets the water in.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I mean, that sounds like the Canyon's ahead so far. I mean, that was a pretty fun loop. Should we go and hit it again?
Yeah, let's do it.
Now, Jamie, you said you've been testing these bikes for 6 months. Is there anything that kind of stands out when you use them as a daily driver?
Yeah, overall, this is a way easier bike to live with. Brakes are way better on this bike. Like, strangely enough though, the rotors are smaller, so you'd think it would have less power, but actually they're more powerful.
What brakes are they?
Shimano SLX.
Okay.
So 180 rotor in the front, 160 in the rear, compared to 200 and 180 on your bike.
I've noticed that they're twin piston brakes, not 4-piston.
Yeah.
I don't think that means they're less powerful or anything, but do they still have that weird variable bite point thing?
No, they've been super consistent. They're actually incredible for the price of the bike, I think. It's one of the standout features for me. I feel like a bigger rotor on the back. I'd always say a bigger rotor on the back. Yeah. 160 doesn't have quite enough bite, but you know, I guess you could change that.
The tyres are the limiting factor on these bikes, probably.
Yeah, I was going to say, like with the stock tyres it comes with, the Schwalbe tyres, you lose braking on the tyre before you lose power from the brakes.
Before you cook the brakes, totally. I mean, I found like with the SRAM G2 brakes on this bike, I mean, they kind of got the power there. The feel's not amazing on them. They've never been a super impressive brake, but again, they've been pretty consistent too, right?
Yeah, I kind of run wide on a few things though, because they haven't got enough power.
Yeah,
like they're not good enough for me.
And we've got a SRAM Shimano mix on the drivetrains too. So this has got NX on it, and that one's got, am I right in thinking it's an XT SLX mix?
There's a Posh XT derailleur and a Dior trigger. So this is standout again for me on this bike. It's crisper. It like drops into its gear way quicker and more reliably. It's like a ka-tang and you're in.
I'm totally with you because like having ridden both the bikes, like normally I prefer like the performance of the SRAM shifter compared to the Shimano. And also it tends to be like more robust, but the shifting is really kind of sluggish and vague on this.
It's hard to push as well on the.
And then I snapped the chain when we were out on Monday, right?
Too much power in those legs.
No, it's not power. I just think it was like this because the shifting's clunky, and as I sprinted off, It was kind of in between. It hadn't dropped into the next cog. And I think the chain just exploded.
Yeah. To be fair to YT, they're moving up to Shimano for the next generation of bikes. Just drop that in there.
JD, I mean, like the cables are a mess on that bike, right?
Just don't look further ahead. yeah, to be fair, they are really disgusting, aren't they?
Yeah.
And look at the headset as well. I mean, it doesn't really work, but the reason it's there is the top end bike, which I also rode for a bit last year, has a one-piece bar and stem.
Oh, so... I love a one-piece bar and stem, Jamie.
Okay, I'm also not a fan, but at least it flows. Like it fits nicely. Yeah. And also it has a grip shift to drop it into the different pedal modes. Okay. So you lose all this.
So it looks nice and neat. It looks until you adjust your stem height, and then it. Real nightmare.
Or you have to grease the bearings.
And the other problem with these, I think, is that because they're kind of like they move, like water goes into the frame, right?
Yeah, I would be shocked if it wasn't coming in there, as well as coming in here for the storage.
Yeah.
Didn't you put it in the work stand? And
yeah, all the water just poured out of the bottom after I washed the bikes. Yeah, totally.
One more thing to say about this bike, it's a standout feature, is it doesn't have an infinite adjustable dropper post. It's either up or it's down.
You mean stand out as in positive or stand out as in negative? Like it could be either, right?
Negative for me.
Yeah.
Most of the time it's fine, but sometimes when you're on one of those techie climbs, you want it halfway.
Yeah.
And then it's kind of annoying. Mostly you don't notice. And also, a couple of times I've kind of gone to drop into a descent, put it right down, not been at the bottom, and it hasn't quite engaged. And it's kind of sprung back up and like whacked me in the ass.
Yeah, so I'm with you, Jamie, because like on a bike like this, you're going to have your saddle height topped out. You're going to have it pretty tall for pedaling efficiency, for covering ground fast. And then it's not the best position for technical climbing. You need to drop it like 20 mil, and you can't do that with that seat post.
Yeah, 100%. You're either up or you're down. So I'd change that.
Jamie, I don't think I need to tot up the scores on this test. I think it's pretty clear which one you think's the winner. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. And I'm sitting on it. It's this bike. It's the Lux Trail. That's my pick. It's not actually because it's the more modern bike, although it is the more modern bike. It's because it has better suspension, and suspension is king, really. It gives you grip on the climbs. It gives you grip on the descents.
It also makes the bike dynamic, right? Like, I mean, I can see how you ride that bike. Like, I'm following you with the GoPro, and it's like you're picking it up, you're slashing turns, back end stepping out. Yeah, you went into that one section way too hot. And I'm like, he's way too confident on this bike.
It finds grip though. It's comfortable, and it also has grip. It's like, it saves you.
But I think any bike that makes you feel confident is a good bike. So it's a bike that gives you confidence. It's a bike that you really like riding. What rating did you give it?
I'm giving it a 9.
Okay.
So it's not a 10. I think you know why. Because the geometry is not quite up to scratch. That door is kind of annoying.
There's a few niggles, right?
Yeah, there's a few things, but overall, suspension's great. The weight's fine, like it's tricked out really nicely. It's better value than that bike. The brakes are better, the drivetrain's better. Like overall,
it's a better bike, right?
Like 2 marks above that bike, I'd say.
So 2 marks above that one. That means that this is a 7. I can do the math on that pretty easy, right?
Yeah, I think that's fair. It's not like I hate it. It's just it could be so much better. Again, YT's on a journey with that bike, I think.
A 5-year journey. I mean, it's about time this bike got refreshed, right?
Yeah. Like I could see it coming back when they redesigned the frame and not just do a spec change. I could see it coming back and having 64-degree head angle, 63 maybe, like a proper weapon.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you, JD, but I've got a theory about this bike. Like, so I rode it early on. I never really gelled with it. I didn't like the way the kind of rear suspension worked with the front and how it pushed onto the front. And I was expecting this like crazy wild, because YT is a crazy wild brand, right? I was expecting this super slack, super low, down country, flexi bike. You just like bend in turns and stuff, right? And like, if you think about all their other bikes, the Chuez, the Capra, and the Jeffsy, they're all amazing bikes.
You like all those bikes?
They're brilliant. They're all brilliant bikes, right? This is the only bike from YT that I don't think is brilliant.
So Muldoon, tell me why. What's the reason? Break it down for me. Why you think that's the standout dud?
I reckon this is the only bike that YT have made that's been designed by committee.
Whoa.
Yeah, totally.
That's a hell of an
I think a load of people had a hand in it. No one really just took the bull by the horns and goes, no, this is what it needs to be. Yeah. And I think there was too many people had a say, and they ended up with a very average bike. This bike isn't a bike that blows you away.
Yeah, it's neither one nor the other. It's not super short travel, slashy. It's not big travel.
It's pretty capable, just not very inspirational, right?
So I've had a great time riding both these bikes, the Canyon Lux Trail and the YT Izzo. But hey, these are just my opinions, right? Just one guy's opinions, and maybe Muldoon as well.
Yeah.
So let us know what you think. Which one would you pick? Which is the bike that best suits your riding?
An e-bike.